Hey everybody, welcome back to This Old Trike. Today, we have wheeled the Big Blue into the shop. Let me tell you what the plan is for it and try to keep up. It's a little bit complicated. Here's the plan. And it is a 3-part plan, which is a good plan when it comes to 3-wheelers, because 3 is the magic number, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the magic number.
This is an 86 ATC 250ES Big Red. Done up with blue fenders. If you're wondering, no, Honda never made a blue Big Red. They were always red, and this is custom paint to match blue fenders from Meyer, and that's what this is. The 3-part plan involves this machine, my 88 Big Red, which you can tell the progress on that is nothing, and another 86 Big Red. So it's raining out here today, so we're going to make this brief. This 86 Big Red is really nice. It's going to donate its fenders to the 88 Big Red and whatever else I need to make the 88 Big Red really nice. I've got a lot of refurbished parts and things that are original that we're going to put on the 88, but this one is going to donate its fenders. It's a really nice Big Red though. So you might think, oh, that's unfortunate. Why would Preston be doing that? How mean. You know, he calls himself an enthusiast, but he's going to ruin an 86 Big Red that I would love to have. And that jerk's just going to ruin it. I mean, look at the brake lever, right? And I'm just going to rob parts off this thing. 732 miles. The story on this was it came from a family out near Syracuse, New York. Last registered in 95, it looks like. But they would use it at the state fair in Syracuse. And that's how it was used. And now I'm going to destroy it. But I'm not. I'm going to put all the blue fenders and things back on this. So this will become my Big Blue. What am I going to put on the Big Blue for fenders? Am I going to put the 88 Big Red fenders? No. I just don't want to do that. I want to hang on to the original 88 fenders. But as you recall from one of our last videos, we got these fenders from our friend Matt Coggs, who is the guy behind Garage MC YouTube channel. So check him out if you haven't. We got a whole bunch of stuff from him. It's raining really hard. Let's get back in the shop. Wow. Wow. That was a lot of rain. So we're going to strip all the blue off this. Ultimately, it's going to go on that other 86. The spare fenders we got from Matt Coggs are going to go on this machine with the original metal tank from that 86. I need to pull that tank and put some evapor rust in it because it has rust in there. So we'll see how that works. If you've ever wondered how well evapor rust works, you're going to find out. And we're going to get to stripping this thing. It doesn't take a long time. The rear fenders come off very easy. Side covers come off super duper easy. Tank comes off easy. That's probably half of it. The other half is the front fender and triples. To do the triples, it's a bit involved. So let's get after it. Well, we're going to have to stop. And here's why. You'll see we've got the forks off the front, the triples off. This was the most convenient way I could think to do it, so I don't have to. That is a snake's den of wiring that I don't want to get into. So to just let that rest there, we can slide the red forks in and mount things up. And I would have gotten it all the way, except if it hadn't been for you rotten kids. No. If it hadn't been for these tapered bearings that I put in here, back when I made this a big blue, I said, well, now's the time to do it. You know, I'm going to make this nice and special, and better put tapered bearings in there. And when I first saw that, I said, oh yeah, that's right. I put tapered bearings in. But the thing is, I can't get them out. There is no material to tap those races out. And even if I had to replace them, you'd probably have to weld something to them to pull them out, because there's nothing to get behind and tap. So that means they need to stay. So that means the red triple tree I put in here, I have to put tapered bearings on. So they're on order, and this will sit this way until then. It's not in the way of anything. It's only right here in the middle of the shop, so whatever. I'll put that speedometer someplace safe, so it can be put on the big red that we're going to put on. But anyway, that's where we're going to have to call it quits here. The more I look at this, the more I remember why I'm doing the switch. Like, I didn't even have a bolt in the exhaust there. I'll give it a good once over, check the oil, fresh battery in it. I think I had robbed the air box or the air cleaner, air filter at some point. Just got this from my buddy Matt Coggs at Garage MC YouTube channel. Check him out, but that'll go on the exhaust. We'll make it back into a big red, and then she'll be posted for sale and go down the road. And my buddy Joe Whalen was just here, good old Joe, and he said, is that right? Should that be sticking up as much as it is right there? I thought, geez, Joe, I don't know. You know, I can feel the bearing race down here kind of sets in a little bit. So I said, when I pull out the new bearings, I want to make sure I go through them, because there's two different part numbers. And this is confusing. 993524, 993511. And they come like this, sitting in the races. And I pulled my calipers out, which have a dead battery, but at least I can compare. So I measured thickness on this, and I measured thickness on this one, and they are the same thickness. I know it's hard to show you here, but they are the same. The bearings are one is slightly thicker than the other. There's no instruction really, except this thing, which only talks about the washer. So you got a 991041 washer that goes on the bottom, on the steering stem, and then on top is the 991101. That guy, made in China. And the bearings are made in India. Okay. One seal is thicker than the other. It doesn't tell you which seal to use, but one is thicker. Two different part numbers, 331024 and 331006. So, a little bit of guesswork involved. That's all the instructions. This is the All Balls kit. Not sponsored. Don't know that I care to be. So, what did I do when I did this? I can't quite remember. I can measure those. It worked. It didn't have slop. It wasn't, you couldn't feel any slop in it. So I'll redo what I did when I did this and put things back together. Here we go. Okay, here's the triples I pulled off the Big Blue. And you can see I have the bearing race on here, or the bearing with the seal. There's a spacer underneath there. So in order to make that happen, you have to take your red triple, and this one is, it wasn't this nice. I did a little repair work on it, restoration work, but you have to pull the lower race off this. Now, before I painted it, I pulled that out and I tried to heat it and give it a little pry, and it was not working for me. So I went over to everybody's favorite tool place, the highest quality tools that you can buy. I bought one of these. So I'm going to use this guy and this and this and a couple of those to draw off the race on that. Look at my work surfaces here. I did just clean my shop. But anyway, I'm watching some MRC builds up here. You guys watch MRC? He just got a new 7870 he's pretty proud of. Vinny Staff is out here helping me. What's up, Vinny? But let's figure out how this goes on and pull it off. Stay tuned. So I picked the smaller clamp to use just because tolerances are a little tight around here. And I've put that on the bottom. I've put 2 spacers in. And you see my problem I'm going to have here. If I put that screw down here that does the pulling, it's just going to go inside my steering stem. So I've got a little piece of steel here that I'm going to use to push against. And then we're going to see if we can back that off. Here we go. I guess we didn't have to time lapse that. Geez, that went pretty quick. Yeah, just pulled it off. Nice and easy. There you have it. So I'll slide the new bearings on here and we'll be in business. Stay tuned. Okay, I found the difference in the bearings. So one is smaller ID inside diameter than the other. This one I put the grease in is the lower bearing. I just lucked out. And let me show you how I just discovered that. Okay, so I slid this on and I went down here and then I encountered some resistance. I took the tube off my jack, which was a pretty good idea to hit the flat on that bearing. And I started tapping it in. I said, wait a minute, what if this is the upper bearing? So I stopped and I ended up having to pull this back out. I just put it all away. So I pulled that back out, pulled it off. And I said, let me see if this one just slides down to the bottom before I grease it up. And this one doesn't even clear there. So that's definitely the lower. This is definitely the upper. We will grease and install accordingly. I'm going to just clean that up a little bit. It's probably just got some schmutz that's making it bind up. And if I have to tap it down in, I don't want to tap it on one side using a screwdriver, kind of, shade tree mechanic style. You want to hit it evenly and drive it down evenly. And this is a good tool for the job. Husky floor jack, if you're wondering. All right, I'll keep you posted. We're seated down. It was just a little buildup of old grease that was holding it up. So I'm going to put my bearing spreader away and slide these triples up and in. Okay, we've gone and robbed the gas tank off the machine that will be the new Big Blue. And you might notice these sitting here, because despite how nice this tank looks on the outside, unfortunately, she's a little rusty inside. Not bad, not like super scaly, but enough that we're gonna put the old Evapo rust to her. So Here's the scuttlebutt and the controversy. Not that there is anything, but there's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to cleaning the rust out of a tank. So there's a couple different schools of thought when it comes to cleaning rust out of a tank. And there's a couple different products, and here's my thoughts on all those products, and I've done them each way. I've used muriatic acid, I've used vinegar, I've used apple cider vinegar, and I've used Evapo-Rust. And with muriatic acid, that's the strongest acid. It does the job and it does it quick. And there will be a exothermic chemical reaction. It's going to give off heat. Your tank will be hot. And if you put it out in the sun, it'll go faster. Heat will accelerate the reaction. Vinegar does the same thing, but on a smaller scale. Both of those products will strip off any coating that remains in your tank. I don't know what they line the tanks with. I don't think it's a lining. I think the steel they use has some sort of zinc plating or some sort of treatment done to it that preserves it. And depending on the degree of rust that you have, it will get eaten away. Maybe the plating in this tank is no good anymore. But in the event that it is still salvageable, the safest product to use is Evapo-Rust. So, does it work as quick as muriatic acid? No. Does it work as quick as apple cider vinegar or vinegar, straight vinegar? Kinda. And you can reuse it. So you got to strain it. If you got chunks in it, you got to do that. But it is gentle enough to preserve your coating. If you clean it out and then leave your tank dry, will it flash rust and be like it was before? Probably. So you got to keep it full. Is it safer to line the tank afterwards? Depends. Could be. Lining a tank is a totally different process. I have used a variety of products with that. I recommend two. One is Pour 15 and one is Caswell in the Battleship Gray. I steer clear of cream. I steer clear of red coat. Both of those have a silvery appearance, so you're giving the illusion of a steel tank inside. So that being said, let's pour in this Evapo-Rust and see how much. I've got a little less than 2 gallons, so that'll get us close. That's 2 gallons, and I'm about to here. So let's see if I happen to have another container, and I don't. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the cap back on. Here's the back side of the cap. I'm going to close the vent, and I'm going to slosh it around. I'm going to work these a little bit first to free them up. Everything's a little stiff. There we go. Okay. So about every 6 to 12 hours, I'm going to do this again. Just keep checking it. I'm probably going to let it go for 48 hours. Now I'm going to weld a nut to that sheared off bolt and back that out. So that is the front hold down point for the rear rack assembly. So I definitely want to have the ability to bolt that down. So I've cleared a path to my welder. Let's do it. Okay, so the way this works is you're basically welding a nut. Well, that's not basically what you're doing. You're welding a nut onto the sheared off shaft of the bolt, making a new bolt. And the heat from the welding process helps to penetrate down into the bolt itself and break things loose a little bit. So we're going to weld it and give it a second to cool off. Find my welding helmet right here. This welding segment is brought to you by Southeast Vintage Cycle Rescue. Make sure you like and subscribe. Awesome guy, Pat Wells. A little bit bigger now. No, that one was worse. That one was worse. I think it turned a little bit. Why? Why am I not getting a good weld? Grounding right to the bottom of that. My son just had an amazing idea. How many of you guys have a ton of these that come with every piece of furniture that you get and you just throw them out? Or you slip a few of them in your toolbox like I have. Bennett said, why don't we just weld an Allen key to it? I think that's a great idea. I think we'll put this washer around that just to protect the other bit. We'll give it a go. It's hard to get it to make contact. Washer.
Or just my idea wasn't too bad.
Well, it was worth a shot.
What's wiggling?
What do you mean what's wiggling?
Why is it wiggling back and forth?
Probably it's got rust on the bottom of the bolt, which is why it was having a hard time in the first place. Okay, we had catastrophic YouTube failure here. My phone fell down just as I was getting the bolt out. The bolt was spinning in there. So as I was going back and forth, I was stripping the threads off the bolt piece that was left. Eventually got it out. I'm able to re-tap this hole, clear that out. So that's good. That'll take a new bolt. I don't have to do an upsize or anything like that. So what a stinking weirdo thing. But my phone did die. So let's pull this out. This is a proper thread on the bolt. I don't have thumb screws, big rubber plastic ones that go in here, but there it is. It might have a little slop to it, but better than a sheared off bolt. So I got a little ahead of myself, and we're pretty much wrapped up with everything except, can you tell what's missing? Oh, you're very good. The gas tank. We are filled with vinegar. You saw that. The evapor rust wasn't cutting it, so we're on day 2.5 of vinegar, and it is getting it done. I've strategically placed it over this tote in case something does give way and a pinhole is identified. I'll be using Pour 15 to line this. I'll make a different video about that and maybe revisit some of this footage to talk about the process. But I've put the taillights in. You'll notice one mud flap is missing, and I don't have the part of the fender that hangs down to even mount a mud flap if I had one. So I did put fender trims on that I had. I think the only thing I might do before I wheel this in the other room, there's a little crack right here. I might throw a couple hot staples in that to stabilize it. But this is wrapped up, basically. Rims and tires off my 88 Big Red. This is the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, in a way. But the 86 in the other room will be receiving the big blue tank that sits there. The fender's here. Eventually we'll roll that in and steal the fenders off it for the 88. Where is it? Where did I put it? It's right here. So the tank's off of this. The seat sits somewhere else. We had to put a new fuel line. No, put a new fuel line on my other 86 over here. I've just pulled the rims and tires off the rear of the 200 SX that we got. This will be a Kids Fun giveaway. We're going to put some Scorpions on the back. I've got them mounted here. It was a mixed matched set of rear rims. It had a stock one and it had this ITP. So we're going to make them both the same style now. Clean those up, mount those Scorpions on it. I've got some other tire business I need to do since we're going to the tire shop. So we'll handle that. What else is going on? There's a little bit of everything going on. We are 2 weeks away from Trike Fest. Let's show you what's going on in the other room. getting that big red out will make way for us to set up our tables to reassemble the pink palomino. So that'll be happening here because my daughter needs her trusty steed at Trike Fest. So that'll come together. My wife has a purple 70 that we'll be building at some point. It needs to be done before the 4th of July parade. We're going to put a mess of 70s in the parade. So this will be her ride. It will have the 110 motor, same motor as the pink palomino, as suggested by my buddy Glenn Moulton. There's Vinny Staffa in the background. It's the only place you see him these days is in the background of my videos. So we'll get this 86 out of here, set the tables up, and we'll revisit this when I line the tank, which will be later this week. So lastly, this SX is going to get some love. Some of those tires you saw me pulling out are going to be for this. We're putting this back on correct size tires. We got some Serwa 250 SX tires that we're going to put on the back of this, and a spare tire that I've got on the front. So get this ugly front max off. This front max is actually cutting into the aluminum over here, so it's not a like, it's a need. So, and if I am not mistaken, here comes Bennett on his blacked out ATC 70 build that we still don't have a name for. I think we might just go nameless. So he's probably going to check in to see what we're working on. We'll catch you guys later.